Photography maintenance is definitely not something that we talk about every day. It's definitely something that goes over our heads, but it would make a big difference if we just took our time to actually figure out what we need to maintenance as a pro photographer or as a budding photographer that wants to be a pro photographer that photographs in and out every day and has expectations from clients or other people that expect you to do certain work. Now, with that said, with expectations come results, and if you don't meet those expectations, you won't get those results. And you have to worry about technology. You have to rely on technology. That technology has to be there and it has to work. And if it does not work, you have to have a backup for it. So maintenance is extremely important because you have no control over what your devices do and the condition of your devices a lot of times, especially when you put wear and tear on your devices. One of those main devices that we're going to be talking about today are batteries, and batteries are something that just about every photographer, if not every photographer, uses in day-to-day work as a photographer. Batteries are something that we forget all the time, so we need to understand how to court ourselves when it comes to charging and putting them back in our bags. We also need to be talking about the health of the batteries and the condition of the batteries and the safety of the batteries, how long the batteries should last. We're going to talk about all of that in this video today, so let's get started. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the type of batteries that we're going to be talking about. We have two different categories. I want to categorize it kind of in general terms, but the first battery we're going to be talking about are those batteries that are multifaceted, or that could be used in multiple devices. And those are what we call the universal batteries for this video. We're going to classify them as universal. These are going to be your AA batteries, your A batteries, AAA batteries, all those things. And I'm going to represent those batteries with just my AA batteries. These are the batteries that I think most people are going to be using, but you can apply those concepts to D batteries or any other style batteries, button cells, whatever else you might be using in your photography world. That is going to be classified under universal. Now, there are also batteries that are proprietary. These would be like your LPE6NH batteries, your batteries that come with Sony cameras, batteries that come with Nikon cameras, brand-centric batteries. I call those proprietary batteries. That means you need these batteries for these devices. You can't use any other kind of batteries. You might be able to extend the life of those batteries with other things like power banks, but for the most part, those are batteries that can only be used with certain devices. That means you can't use those devices otherwise. So those are proprietary batteries. You know, Mac is very proprietary, or Apple is very proprietary. You need Apple branded things to work with those devices properly. Even Apple might not service them afterwards. So those are proprietary things. So let's get right into what makes batteries so important when it comes to maintaining all of your equipment. The first batteries I want to get into are my proprietary Canon batteries. These are your LPE6NH batteries, NH Plus, or LPE6 for short, because you have several different batteries you can get. You can get the ones with the gold stripe, you can get the plain ones, you can also get the new ones with the white stripe and it's got a P designation to them. Basically, the newer ones have better capacity for the more rigorous devices like your R5, R5Cs, your R5 Mark IIs, your R1s, so on and so forth. But I don't even think they work with the R1s. I'm thinking about the R6 Mark IIIs and the R6 Mark IIs. So with that said, you have to understand that these batteries, these LPE6NH batteries, and I'm sure this applies for Sony and any other proprietary battery, they have a lifespan that applies to them, and it tells you how long they're going to be working. It tells you how effectively they're going to be working, and it tells you how many cycles you can charge them and how much it can go through, or how many shots you can go through before these batteries start to give up the ghost and not perform like the manufacturer intended them to. So it's very important that you understand that, and in your camera's menu system, you need to check as a part of your maintenance how long you have and what's the health of your battery. A lot of the more recently made cameras can actually do this. I know on the Canon side, you can actually put this battery in your camera and then look through your battery information, and then you can actually tell exactly how many shots, how effective, how good the battery life is, and how effective this battery is. So if you are maybe a sports shooter and puts your batteries through the harshest rigors of 40 frames per second and all the things like 4K and 8K, everything that eats up battery life at a high rate, then you need to be checking it, especially your health of your battery, so you make sure that they're working the way you need them to be working. Because last thing you want to do is get on the shoot and not be able to perform like you thought you were able to perform. Maybe you were filming for an hour and then now this battery only gives you 45 minutes at 4K 120 or 4K. You see what I'm saying? So the last thing you want to do is get to a job and not be able to get the original performance out of these batteries that you were able to get before. Another note on these batteries is third-party batteries. You'll see a lot of third-party batteries in the world of Canon and Nikon and Sony, especially for your full-frame cameras. You don't see as many third-party batteries for your crop frame sensor cameras like your R7s and your R100s and your EOS RPs. I don't think EOS RP is a crop frame sensor body, but if your camera is a APS-C or a crop frame sensor body, which means you use a specific type of lens and you have a specific class of battery, then you need to understand that those batteries won't have as many third-party batteries, but you can still go through the same process of checking up on the health of your battery by putting it inside of your camera and checking on the health of your battery to make sure that you're getting as much time, as much energy and effort out of the battery as it was intended by the manufacturer. Now, I'm not saying if you don't have perfect health that you need to discard the battery. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that there is a certain tolerance. I think it's about like a 3-mark score. You have like 3 little dash marks that are green in your camera for the Canon side of things. And then when you get past a certain percentage of health or get lower than a certain percentage of health, of course you want to go ahead and discard the battery and replenish your batteries with something brand new. Now, with that said, the third-party batteries that are crop frame censored, the crop frame sensor, the official ones, they actually aren't easy to find third party. Also, with that said, the crop frame sensor body, LP 17, I believe, and some other battery type name, they are not as easy to find, and you can only find them under the main Canon brand. Whereas here we have this LPE6 battery, which are readily available, but you can also find a lot of third-party copies of this battery. And a lot of times when you buy used cameras, a lot of times people are trying to get rid of that camera and they don't have batteries because they want to save the original batteries, and they'll just stick you with a cheap one. This happens a lot more often than you think, but do not use these third-party batteries, in my opinion. A lot of people use the third-party batteries because they want to get away with something cheap. These batteries are like $79 US, and a lot of people don't want to purchase them, and a lot of people want to replenish them for the next cycle of camera. So if you have an R6 Mark I, they work on the R6 Mark II and III. If you have an R5 Mark I, they're probably going to work on the R5 Mark II and III, so on and so forth. If you have a full-frame body, most of the batteries are recyclable. A lot of people want to save money on batteries by getting third-party. Don't do that. Why? Because these newer cameras eat battery life like it's no tomorrow, and when you plug this battery in there, they no longer give you an accurate reading of how much battery life is left in this actual battery itself. Not talking about the health of the battery, just the regular battery signal that everybody looks at when they put their battery in their camera. Also, you want to also realize that these batteries do not operate with the newer functions well at all. You can't use USB-C power with these batteries. You can't use a whole bunch of things that you would have been able to use otherwise. And Canon, I think they set their cameras up to destroy these batteries when you put them in there. So you might be at full life, record for like 5 minutes. Now you're at like one notch left on your camera, and it's just ridiculous. It wasn't like that in the DSLR days. Now the camera did know you had a third-party battery in there because it will ask you. It was like, hey, does the battery you have a Canon symbol on the front of it? If not, it's not a third-party battery. Oh, it's not a primary party battery, and it won't operate to Canon standards. Therefore, they know when you put a third-party battery in the camera by how they designed it. It will not work up to the standards. Your burst rate will be off, how much film time you will be off, and your camera can't even tell you how much accurate battery life you have, especially if you have a newer camera. If you have an old camera, 20D, 30D, 40D, 50D, 60D, maybe a 70D, you might be okay. But with all those other batteries, and even then, even if you're okay, you're still not going to get the full battery life of an actual official Canon battery like this LPE6NH battery. So you need to know the differences of these batteries, and you need to work accordingly based on what you have. So same thing goes for Sony, Nikon, Panasonic. I'm pretty sure there are third-party batteries out there for them, but you want to make sure that you have what you need to get everything done at a high level. Now, if you're just doing this casually, it might not matter to you, but as much as you matriculate, if you keep going in the photography world, you're gonna want to change your batteries and have something official. Work to something official if you have third-party stuff. I understand that not everybody can afford it, but really work towards it because you're handicapping yourself. Burst rate, all these mirrorless features need extra power, more than we needed before. All right, so I also have the battery chargers on the desk. And the reason why is because you can get third-party chargers. If I were you and you had third-party batteries, actually keep the third-party chargers. This is an official Canon charger that comes with the camera and or batteries, or you can purchase from Canon. It will tell me the battery life as it increases, but if you put a third-party battery on this primary Canon charger, it will have troubles. It'll just keep blinking sometimes, and then it'll never stop blinking. It'll never give you a solid light. On the Canon chargers, a solid light means it is fully charged, a solid green light at that. But if that light does never go solid, that means it's having trouble getting the full charge into the battery, and or it just does not want to cooperate with it. Why would you want to be on somebody's wedding with something like that happening in the background? People don't know what you're going through in the background, but why would you want a battery that goes out and flashes and blinks at you all the time when it's not supposed to? That means it's not working accurately, which means you're not putting your best foot forward when it comes to getting someone's best work. You know, getting your client or whoever you're working for the best work, and that's something that you don't want to do. So make sure you have a good battery charger, but make sure you use the appropriate battery charger for the appropriate battery. To my knowledge, third-party battery chargers work better with third-party batteries, and you tend to get a more concrete finish to the battery life, or a concrete indicator that it's finished on the battery life. You also want to get a good battery charger for any other batteries that you might have that are rechargeable. I use Sanyo inner loop and or Panasonic inner loops. Panasonic bought the company over, so you'll see the words interchanged. But get a good battery charger for those as well. The better battery charger, chances are it's going to be a little bit faster, and it's going to give you a better readout. I think the readout means more than anything, because the last thing you want to do is put these batteries in the device, and the device does not give you the full charge. You don't get a full battery life, but it's actually full on here. Now you might be saying, what are you talking about? Why would it be full on here but not on the device? Well, for example, nickel metal hydride batteries, or NIMH, these are the designation on the batteries. That's what's inside of the battery that, is storing the energy. You have to understand that the voltage might not be extremely high, and on some devices, they might not read a full battery, although it's fully charged here. So depending on what device you have, you need to understand that, hey, if I fully charged here, it should be fully charged on the device. So those are some of the things that you might not understand. And even on some devices like speed lights and audio devices, you have to understand you can actually switch whether it's an alkaline battery or a nickel metal hydride battery in the actual menu system, so the voltage will actually be read correctly. So these are things you really need to know about before you're going out in the field, because you might think it lasts longer than it does, or you might think it's not usable when it's usable. Short story time. I actually allowed someone to borrow my nickel metal hydride batteries, but they were like, oh, it's not as full as it should be, blah, 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 blah. They didn't have it in the menu system where they switched it over, and they thought that the batteries were dead or not operating to maximum, so they ended up throwing them away when I could have just recharged them. So these are things you need to understand. Make sure your batteries are telling you exactly what they are, but also giving you the correct signals. The next battery I want to talk about is your speed light battery. Now, speed light batteries are mainly for people who want to use speed lights. A lot of pro photographers use speed lights, but there's definitely a healthy section of them who do not like artificial flash or adding additive light, or additive light in general. But you want to make sure that these are charged, and even though it's lithium ion, you want to make sure you have a backup battery. Understand that the contacts on the back of the battery are very important. If you have open copper contacts, like on older batteries, for example, in this speed light, I have the older version. It has open copper contacts, but in the more updated version, I had contacts that were really recessed inside the body. These recessed internal contacts, so to speak, are way more safer than these open contacts here that you can see in copper. These copper contacts, if you have a piece of metal and it touches both sides, it can short out the battery, cause sparks, cause heat, all kinds of things. And with them being so open, it can cause a lot of problems, especially if they get wet or anything like that. So these are less safe, even though they're still on the market. I would recommend that you get batteries that are safe for your lithium ion charged speed lights. Also, always have more than one lithium ion battery. Another thing to think about with speed lights and batteries is that speed light batteries tend to overheat. There's no way I can really check unless I take a multimeter out and probe this, which is already hard enough because the contacts are so recessed in here. There's almost no way I can test this to see how much battery life it has left. Speed lights also overheat. Batteries are big sources of overheating in speed lights. You need to make sure that you have another speed light and you make sure you have another backup battery, because like I said, the backup batteries, even though they're pricey, just like your proprietary Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, Sony batteries, you need to understand that it's hard for you to keep maintenance on these batteries. Therefore, you just need to have backup batteries and or backup speed lights. You might be saying, why would we need backup speed lights if we have the backup batteries? The reason is because speed lights overheat. Batteries are a huge source of heat. So even if you have a backup battery and you were to go and put it in the speed light, that does not save you, because the battery might be fresh and cool, but the system might still be heated. So when you go back and flash and you're at a wedding where you have to shoot 10, maybe even 11, 12 hours, you need to understand that that heat is still stored. You need to have this system rest, this whole unit rest, while you put another battery in another speed light, and or use a different battery, and then have one cool off, one's ready, use the other one. This is if you're using a one speed light setup. If you're using a multi-speed light setup, it matters even more. And everybody's situation will vary, but I just wanted to hit on that. The difference between these two speed light lithium ion batteries, what you would need for your speed light, how to maintenance your speed light day in and day out, understanding that you might need to purchase this as part of your maintenance because you might have broken one of these batteries. And I'll get into that in just a second. The next batteries that I want to talk about, and you probably can't see them in my hand, are the universal batteries. These are my Sanyo inner loop batteries, but I'm mainly talking about rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. You need to understand that these batteries are extremely useful. When I first started photography, I used to go out to big, box stores that would have like 20, 30 batteries. As a kid, if you were a spoiled kid like me and you had Christmas presents and these Christmas presents need batteries, well, my pops would go to the store and get this huge box of batteries, especially Duracells and Energizers were big back in those days. So you need to understand that having a lot of those batteries were great, but it is virtually impossible to keep up with ones that you used, how long you used them, and a lot of times you want to go with a fresh battery for each event. And it becomes a hassle to have to go back and buy batteries and go back and buy batteries and go back and buy batteries, and not knowing exactly how much is left on batteries. And a lot of people don't have what we call multimeters, probes that can actually measure the voltage, and a lot of people don't want to walk around with an extra multimeter just to keep maintenance on the battery, so they just end up buying more batteries, because chances are if I use batteries, I don't want to reuse those batteries that are disposable. In come your Sanyo inner loop batteries or Panasonic inner loop. They have a pro version, which are black, and the white versions, which are the standard version, but I think the white versions register a lot better with the devices that we use, but the pro versions are supposed to be extra charged, like pros, I guess. But long story short, understand that you need to make sure that these batteries stay in good condition. This battery, as you can tell, is not in good condition. It's starting to fray, and it probably is starting to leak a little bit, maybe, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that one time I was using the battery and I had it in my pocket, and it was a sunny day, and the sun and the heat started to make it steam, and it burned me in my back pocket. So you need to understand that these batteries are very, very important to keep in high maintenance and keep an eye on to make sure you're safe. Make sure that you have batteries that work with your devices. Make sure that if you have AA, make sure you have AA, and a lot of them, not just a few of them. You want to make sure that if you need AAA, get AAA. I'm just using these as the universal sit-ins for D batteries, C batteries, CR2 batteries, button cell batteries, any batteries that you would need for any devices, AA's, AAA's. You know if they have single A batteries, but you understand what I'm saying. You have to understand that these batteries are extremely important, and you don't want to be going out to buy batteries. Think of getting nickel metal hydride batteries. They have some lithium batteries that are like AA's in this form, but nickel metal hydrides I think are on the market more. So think about getting those. And as far as your maintenance is concerned, make sure that you do have some charge cycles because they don't last forever. You want to make sure if you have a multimeter that you measure the voltage. If it's not the amount of voltage that it presents on the battery, for example, this is a nickel metal hydride battery and the voltage is 1.2 volts and a certain milliamp hour. You want to make sure that voltage is still that voltage when it's fully charged. If it says 1.2 volts, I need to be seeing 1.2 volts or close to that on the multimeter when I do my probing. If you don't know how to use multimeters, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of YouTube videos. I had to get my multimeter up, but those of you who have one, use your multimeter and make sure you test these batteries if you're recharging over a long period of time. Don't just keep charging them and think they work. And when it comes to disposing the batteries, don't throw these in the trash can. You want to safely dispose of these at your nearest Lowe's, home improvement store, or anywhere that takes these batteries, because you want to safely dispose of them. The last batteries I want to talk about are your battery packs, your extended life battery packs, your power delivery, power chargers, your power banks. These are extremely important in today's photography world. And I don't have anything much to say about them as far as maintenance is concerned, more so about the times in photography and which one you have. You have the standard ones that you can just plug a USB-A port, that's the square port into. But you have the modern ones with USB capabilities that deliver power delivery. A lot of people have confusion about these. So the power delivery ones work well with Canon cameras. Canon cameras are some of the most sensitive cameras when it comes to this. Understand that you need to get the correct power delivery power bank to be able to charge your camera while the battery is inside your camera. You might be asking yourself, if I'm using a Canon camera, can I charge it while a battery's not in there? Can I put power through it? No, you cannot put any power through a Canon camera without a Canon branded LPE6 NH battery, the gold stripe or higher. So that's the NH battery with the gold stripe, or the NHP battery, the newer version of it. It has to be the newer version of it inside the Canon camera, and then plug this up via USB-C. Then you can power deliver based on the things that you saw here. Now I use the INIU, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. And this is just your Anchor power bank. This is a basic one anybody can find. And this charges like my smaller devices, like my audio receivers and anything else that I can find to charge it. My microphones, all those things. But the power delivery one specifically can charge my camera while it's in the bag. For example, if I have 2 shoots, or if I'm shooting video and photos, I might be filming with my R5 and shooting photos with my R6 and vice versa. And I'm going through batteries like there's no tomorrow. And these LPE6 batteries are very expensive. I'll take out my power bank and I'll charge it with one camera if I have a break. While one camera is shooting, I might do one thing. And this is just my workflow. Your workflow may vary, but it is very, very important to have these, because if you're on long trips, long rides, you gotta shoot all day, you could be charging things as you go. With all that said, I'm Devin with CFX TV. Hopefully you got something out of this battery maintenance video. This is some of those videos that you might not see people watching all the time, but it's extremely important as a photographer to get your workflow right. Not just your workflow in the field, but your workflow when you come home. When do you charge your batteries? Immediately. Charge your batteries immediately. Whether it's your LPE6, your proprietary, or your universal batteries. Charge them immediately so you'll know exactly that your batteries are charged and ready to go. And go ahead and throw them in the bag. Don't throw them in the bag unless they're charged. That's a good way of thinking about things so you're ready for the next shoot. I'm Devin with CFX Studios. Like I said, guys, make sure you dispose of these batteries correctly. None of these batteries should be thrown in the trash. You want to make sure that you dispose of them at the proper waste facilities. And stay tuned for the next video.